Hello. It's a little bit cold. Um, yes, the intellectual brain or center. Like all the other centers, it has three levels, and in the instinctive moving part of the intellectual center, it collects all of the phrases, all of the words which we use to communicate. And it's been likened to a secretary in a large firm who takes all the telephone calls and puts them through to other departments, but often ends up replying to questions that should be actually addressed by a higher part. It has the name the Formatory Centre, and this relates to the parts of it being, the ideas in it being preformed, pre-digested, pre-chewed, and just parroted whenever the right trigger brings them forward. Many discussions that take place in life are actually just this part in one person being triggered and responding to the same part in another person, and it goes backwards and forwards like tennis. Then we move up to the emotional part of the intellectual center. This is where people become very emotional about ideas, thoughts, concepts, theories. Again, they can argue quite strongly when they're in this part. One of the characteristics of the emotional part of any center is it can be quite extreme. And it's the part that when you're actually in a bookshop, will buy lots of books and then take them home and perhaps only read them when one happens to be in that part again. But it can also make a search for the truth, because as with all parts of centers, they have a positive and negative half. And in the negative half of the emotional part of the intellectual brain, mouthful, it doesn't like to not know things. So it'll make the effort to find the answers if possible. And it can suffer quite a lot, as with all negative halves of centers, when it doesn't have the information it requires. And then conversely, when it finds out something, it becomes very happy to have gotten to the bottom of it. Then in the intellectual part, it could be considered the part of us which really thinks. And it's actually quite hard to remain there for any length of time for most people. It's like a muscle that's very rarely worked in most people. And some people would rather do anything than have to use that part of themselves. And you might say that very rarely do people actually go to this part of their internal house. But in order to truly think, to ponder things, one has to be able to go into this part and hold fixed attention on all of the different ideas and try to synthesize them into a whole. There are very few people who are actually born centered here. You can be born centered in any one of those brains. I'll discuss this separately in another video. But that was the intellectual centre hastily run through. Bye for now.